Hello everybody, I'm back with a very quick and unscripted video talking about a new DC animated universe related product that has come out, and that is this book, Beyond the Bat, Secrets of a Superhero Scribe, written by Stan Berkowitz and illustrated by Dan Riba. So if those names sound familiar to you, it'll be because Stan Berkowitz was the writer, or one of the writers I should say, on Superman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, Justice League, Static Shock, and a whole bunch of other superhero properties that you've probably seen. He's had a very prolific career, starting in, I believe, in the 1970s. So he's been a very busy man, and the illustrations by Dan Riba. Dan Riba, of course, is the director of many wonderful episodes of Batman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, Superman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, Static Shock, and a million other shows. Again, a very prolific creator. First things first is that this is not like an unauthorized making of book. It's just a collection of anecdotes and essays that Stan has written about his, I have to do the maths now, the near 50-year career, 40-plus year career, let's say that. And it covers a variety of topics, so it's not just about the superhero shows he's worked on. For instance, one of the chapters is about the animated Bible series he worked on, and there's a really fascinating section in there about how some of the oldest stories from the Old Testament were selected, or how Stan believes they were selected by having a bunch of rabbis getting together and deciding which parts of which stories were most appropriate to include. I found that really fascinating. There's also one of the things I wanted to highlight before we get too far in. It's around page 50 something. It's here. Dan Riba's very first piece of published Spider-Man art. So that's noteworthy as well, because Stan was part of the writing team on Spider-Man. Funnily enough, there's a whole chapter in here about the contrast between working at Warner Brothers on Superman and the difficulties he faced working for Marvel on Spider-Man. So, as you will probably be aware, when shows are being written, the scripts have to be approved by various people, so like censors, executives, producers, and so on. And they will provide notes suggesting changes. Superman, there were very few changes requested, so he found it very easy. Spider-Man, constant notes. So many notes that they were actually contradictory notes from different people, and it was impossible to please everyone. So that's kind of a really fascinating thing to read about in, what chapter was it? Sorry, I had it open a second ago and it's completely left my mind. What was that, chapter 4? Yes. So it's about 15 odd pages, just talking about some interactions with Stan Lee as well. But yeah, I found the chapter format very easy to digest, and the fact that they don't lead on into each other. They're all like separate chapters about different points in his life, and it's not written out in chronological order. Means you could just read any chapter that interests you. And if you are a continuity freak, there is a chronology at the end of the book where he outlines the sequence of events. And just speaking personally, I'm just bringing up his chronology here. Just speaking personally, he tells a story in this book about a friend of his who he gives the name Lucky, who was someone that was always very capable, very talented, kind of coasted on their own natural success, didn't really apply themselves, didn't listen to a lot of feedback as a writer, and how he just kind of got stuck in his life and didn't really apply himself very well, didn't go as far as he could have gone as a writer, before he sadly passed away quite young of a heart attack. And speaking on a personal level, that chapter kind of spoke to me a little bit as well, because I feel a little like that sometimes, like I'm just doing what I'm good at and I don't particularly enjoy pushing myself into areas that I am less comfortable with. So that's kind of given me some food for thought there. So thanks for that, Stan. But yeah, generally really enjoyed this book. It's not like a massively detailed account of, you know, every element of the creation of his shows. There are, of course, some anecdotes in there. Like there's one chapter later on where he talks about his time working on an episode of T.J. Hooker, where the notes from from a lot of the people involved, like the studio producer and even Bill Shatner, watered down the script massively. So it went from, you know, damn it Hooker, that was my daughter, to damn it Hooker, that was my niece. That'll make more sense when you read the book. But yes, it's just a fascinating insight into how these shows that we love are made, and how very different the final product tends to be from what was originally intended. I do recommend this book, particularly if you're a fan of these shows. There are some nice anecdotes in there. I say nice. There are some substantial anecdotes in there. So, for instance, one thing I learned, which may be common knowledge, and I just wasn't aware of it, but during the making of Static Shock, the executives put together a focus group looking at the villains of the series and asked these children what they thought. And the feedback was mostly negative, so the executives came back and said, right, that's it. We're not using any of Static's villains anymore. There were some exceptions, but that was the order from on high. And that led to episodes like the one where Static's powers go into overdrive because of a solar flare. And there was a funny note as well in there that when Static tries to fly and he overshoots a building and lands somewhere far away, the original line that he had was, I'd better get air miles for that. And they got a note back from the executive saying, can we soften the language to be, I hope I get some air miles back from that. Which I just found that interesting. They basically mean the same thing. It's just one is slightly less aggressive. So that kind of gives you the insight into the mindset of the people making these shows. Also, he talks about some experiences working with some famous people like Bill Shatner and Stan Lee, for instance, in the aforementioned Spider-Man chapter. It's available now exclusively on Amazon. If you're a Kindle Unlimited reader, I believe you can read it for free. The ISBN number there for anyone that is really interested. But yeah, I recommend giving this a read because it's an entertaining book, quite informative as well. And it kind of gives you some insight into the kind of struggles that creative people have. I was going to say when they work with people that aren't very creative. That's not very fair of me to say that. Some of the executives are quite creative themselves. It's just they have different motives. I mean, there's even a conversation in this book about it, or I should say a section in this book about it, how, for instance, Jean McCurdy, when she ran Warner's Animation, she had fortnightly meetings with the writers to kind of talk about what they were working on and tease some ideas out. And then when the new executives took over, those meetings stopped and it became all about just, you know, driving profitability, which is, you know, the executive's job. I understand that, but it's a shame that not everyone, you know, values the artistry of animation and writing. And this chapter here was quite fun. It was talking about the Batman stage show. I guess it was a musical. I vaguely remember when this came out, but I can't remember anything about it other than it was a bit of a failure. But yeah, anyway, that's it. I will include a link to the Amazon page in the description of this video, or maybe even the info button above me. It's I'm not an Amazon affiliate, so I won't make any money from it, but I still think, you know, if you are interested in the people that made the shows that we love, give this book a shot. Pick it up, give it a read. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Goodbye.